Hey everyone, welcome back. In my video, 10 Ways to Become a More Organized Person, I talked about how there is this misconception that society is circulating that you can have it all, that you can do it all, that you can be it all. Let's face it, we live in a world that is oversaturated with opinions and information and choices. So many choices. Never before in history have we as humans had access to so many choices. Where should we eat? What should we watch? What should we listen to? You get my drift. Obviously, there are things here and there that we have to say yes to, even when we don't want to. But for the purposes of this video, I'm referring to the choices that we have the ability to make. I read several years ago that the average human being makes 35,000 choices in the course of a day. That is crazy. I don't know how they know that. But when you think about it, your choices begin as your alarm goes off. Do I snooze it? Or do I get up for the day? What should I wear? What should I eat for breakfast? Etc. And that's even before your day really gets going. The more responsibility you have, the more choices you have. And it seems like everyone is vying to help you make those choices. Corporations spend a lot of money in advertising to position their product as the #1 choice in your mind. But the truth is, we all have limited time and we all have limited resources. As much as I would love to say yes to every good thing that came along, it just isn't feasible. I don't have the money to say yes to everything. I don't have the energy to say yes to everything, and I certainly don't have the time to say yes to everything. I can either be honest with myself about that, or I can exhaust myself and my resources trying to do it all. I once heard an analogy that I loved. In the old Sears Roebuck catalog, they used to price things based on quality. For example, if you bought the good quality item, it was the least expensive. Then came the better quality item, which was a little bit more expensive. And then came the best quality item, which was the most expensive. This analogy compared the opportunities that we have to spending our time as good, better, and best. There are good ways to spend our time, and then there are better ways to spend our time, and then there are the best ways to spend our time. If we are going to have an intentional life, there are things that we have to say no to. I want to propose this. You don't have to feel pressure to say yes to every good thing that comes along. Aim for saying yes to the better things and ultimately saying yes to the best things. Because the ways that we spend our time immensely contributes to the kind of person that we become. So, how do we decide how to spend our time and what to say no to? Stephen R. Covey said this: "You have to decide what your highest priorities are and have the courage, pleasantly, smilingly, non-apologetically, to say no to other things. And the way you do that is by having a bigger yes burning inside. The enemy of the best is often the good." Figuring out what our priorities are sounds like it should be easy. So many choices put our priorities in question. As I've thought about some of the priorities conflicts that people face, I've come up with some examples. See if some of these sound familiar to you. I want my kids to be involved in a lot of extracurriculars, but I also really value family time. I want to eat healthy, but I don't have a lot of time to prepare healthy meals. I want a nicer car, but I'm saving for a down payment on a house. We first have to decide what our most important thing is. What is our top priority? I want to offer this tip. When we try to do it all, almost always something falls by the wayside. No matter how capable or how competent you are to take things on, there is only so much you can do. I like to think of it as a house. You can only fit so much in a house. Sure, you can just keep loading things in and filling it up, but with that, you lose a level of comfort. Some people have bigger houses and therefore they can fit more, but still they do have limits as to what they can fit within their house. This is obviously an analogy for our capacity to be busy. The house represents a person's capacity to take on more things. Some people may have more time or energy to be busy, or for this analogy, have a bigger house. But even people with bigger houses can only fit so much inside. We can all only do so much. We want to make sure that we're carefully weighing the opportunities available to us. Because everyone has different capabilities and priorities, don't feel pressured to say yes to the same things as everyone else. You don't have to look very far to see what opportunities other people are taking. Social media is full of things that people are saying yes to. And in turn, it's easy to feel like you're not doing enough, to do what that person is doing or to do what that person is doing. But what that person or that person is doing is not necessarily what you need to be doing right now. I've found that when faced with an opportunity, it's a good idea to ask myself some questions. Bearing in mind what my priorities are, does this opportunity move me closer to who I want to be? Or does it move me farther from who I want to be? Or is it neutral? Is it somewhere in the middle? Weighing the opportunities by this metric allows you to really break it down and see what's at the core of this. Does this opportunity move you closer to who you want to be? Does it align with your priorities? And if it does, where does it fall on the good, better, best spectrum? I have found that most of the choices I make are not life or death or good versus bad. Most of them fall somewhere on the good, better, best spectrum. If this opportunity doesn't move you closer to who you want to be, does it move you farther from who you want to be? If it does, it's probably a good sign that it's something you should say no to. And because some choices are neutral, they aren't necessarily moving you closer to who you want to be, and they aren't necessarily moving you farther from who you want to be. At that point, I like to ask myself a question from Greg McKeown. And that is, if I didn't have this opportunity, what would I be willing to do to acquire it? And a lot of the time when answering this question honestly, I have found that this is not an opportunity I would go out of my way to acquire, and therefore I can say no to it. Another nugget of wisdom from Greg McKeown: when you fail to say no, you are saying yes by default. For me, December is always a month with a lot of choices. We have the option to do all the parties, to see all the lights, to bake all the cookies, to go to all the ugly Christmas sweater parties, to do all the gift exchanges. It goes on and on. But at the end of every December seems to come a reality check for me. Did I do everything I wanted to do with my family? What didn't I get to do? And almost always I come up with ways that I've fallen short, things that I should have done. The past few years since we've been trying to live a more simple life, I have realized that less really is more. I'd rather be more intentional about what I choose to do and have a more meaningful holiday season than to let myself say yes to everything that's available to me and therefore become needlessly busy and feel stressed out. At the end of December, I began asking myself questions like, did everyone have a meaningful holiday season? What did we do this year that we don't necessarily want to do again next year? My husband and I have begun looking at things through the lens of meaningful holiday traditions that we want to keep going, and less at things that we can do just because they're available to us and they might be fun. I've realized doing things just to do them during the holiday season doesn't enhance my experience during the holidays at all. In fact, it makes me enjoy the holiday season even less. So, I am not here to tell you that saying no is easy, because it is not. Often it is very hard to say no to a good thing. But I do want to offer some tips to help saying no feel a little bit more doable. Tip number 1, don't feel like you have to say yes on the spot. If you need to take some time to think about it and someone is waiting for an answer, ask them if you can get back to them. It won't make you look indecisive, but rather it will show that you are thoughtful with the things that you commit to do. Tip number 2, don't compare yourself to everyone else. Just because everyone else is choosing to do something does not mean it is the right choice for you. Give yourself freedom to have that bigger yes burning inside, to have that bigger reason, even if other people don't see or understand that reason. Which brings me to my next point. Don't feel like you have to explain yourself and your reasons to everyone. If you have to turn down an opportunity, do it kindly, or as Stephen Covey said, do it smilingly, pleasantly, and unapologetically. Sometimes I have found it is enough to say, I won't be able to make that opportunity work, but thank you for thinking of me. Now, some do's. Do unsubscribe or unfollow any social media accounts that promote anything that doesn't align with your priorities. And also unsubscribe from anything that makes you feel like you just aren't doing enough. None of us needs to be stared in the face with the ways that society feels we're lacking. Do frequently ask yourself, if I didn't have this opportunity, what would I be willing to do to acquire it? Do remember the power of no. Several months ago, my husband attended a work conference where they talked about the phrase, the power of no. Saying no gives you the time and the ability to do the things that align with your priorities and who you really want to be. Do remember your bigger reason. Remember what your top priority is and what it is that you're working toward. Thank you for being here today. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And also feel free to leave a comment below with something that you have done to make the best choices. Thanks for watching, friends. Have a great day.